Assassin's Creed Syndicate doesn't have the greatest reputation. It's not seen as one of the best games in the franchise. But I disagree. Not only do I disagree, but I plan to prove my point with a well thought out and evidence-based argument. That's it. Evie Frye is the redeeming factor of the entire game. Look at her. Do I need to say any more? I do. Yeah, right, I suppose. In my mind, Syndicate isn't a bad game. It's not a perfect game by any means, but it's not terrible. People had just started to fall out of love with the franchise by this point. Things were starting to become tired. I think to make any Assassin's Creed game work, you have to have 4 important things. The location and historical setting, decent gameplay mechanics, an interesting main plot, and an engaging assassin. And I think when it comes to Syndicate, it only gets all of these points half right. The location was brilliant, and while there were some historical points in there, it wasn't quite the same as the French Revolution, was it? The gameplay was meh. The free running is a bit clunky. That might be because I went from playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey to replaying Syndicate again, and the handle differently. It's a bit frustrating to go to the edge of a building and Evie just doesn't move. I mean, considering I've been throwing Cassandra down mountains in Greece, it's just a bit jarring. I wish I could say it wasn't as glitchy as Unity, but I've been in absolute stitches with some of the glitches I've seen. Nobody's face has vanished, so I suppose that's a positive. I have no idea what the main story of Syndicate was. I know it's 5 years since I played it, but obviously it wasn't all that memorable because I've got no idea what happened. I found Evie and Jacob to be engaging. Okay, I found Jacob to be a little bit annoying. While I think the sibling dynamic was good, there wasn't a lot to it. You would have thought in a situation like that you could have used as a feature of gameplay, where you switch between them during assassination missions. So that was kind of a wasted opportunity in my mind. Especially as I thought the Frye twins as characters are probably the strongest aspect of the game. I found Evie the more well-rounded character between the two, but that's me. Did I want to play Jacob as much as I had to? No, absolutely not. I played all the side quests as Evie, so it was really odd when a cutscene from them would start and both of them were there, with Jacob doing most of the talking. Do I wish players could have been given a choice to play as one or the other all the way through? Yes! And I'm sure this goes both ways, with other players having wanted to play just as Jacob. They put so much focus on how Jacob is more geared towards combat in the skill tree and Evie towards stealth, but they played exactly the same way. Though, because they played exactly the same way, it made Evie seem absolutely brutal and badass in combat, and I loved it. Fight Club is one of the best features of this game, even if the combat controls are limited. And getting into gang fights? Brilliant! Evie beats the Blighters about the head with a cane. This is making me seem a bit savage. I really am just drawn to strong women. Would it not have had much more replayability if each assassination mission had 2 possible approaches? If you could only go down the stealth option with Evie, or do a more full-on approach by using Jacob? Like I've previously said, it would have been interesting to go between the 2 during assassination missions, rather than just having to go with the one Ubisoft say to use. Personally, I think Ubisoft missed a trick. I would have played a game where Evie was the main protagonist. I'm not even saying cut Jacob altogether. The sibling relationship between the 2 of them was a high point. But I'd have been content for him to be a supporting, non-playable character. It was quite obvious at the time of release that Jacob was being pushed as the main assassin. Evie doesn't even feature in the cinematic trailer. The bloody Rooks have a bigger part in that trailer than one of the actual playable characters. Jacob is plastered all over everything, and I can't help but think I'm trying to play this game completely differently to what was wanted by Ubisoft. Looking at this now, knowing about the sexual harassment scandal that recently happened with Ubisoft, reading the reports that have come out as a result of this, about the sexism ingrained so deeply that having a playable female assassin has been a point of contention since Syndicate. Yeah, Looking at it now, it all makes sense why Jacob was pushed to the forefront and Evie relegated to the sidelines. I could go on about how representation matters, but I've done it in a previous video, so I won't. I don't think I need to go into much detail about how having a playable, leading female assassin would have meant a lot to a lot of people. I will say 5 years ago, playing as Evie Frye was important to me, even if it was brief. Even if Jacob was pushed as the lead, even when one of my own friends put a downer on the whole thing and pointed out, you could only play as her 40% of the time. That 40% meant something. I dare say there's scope for a much more in-depth look at sexism in Assassin's Creed. I'm just scraping the surface of it all, really. This was the Assassin's Creed game I wanted. It was the setting, it was the time period. It had a female playable assassin who wasn't relegated to a PSP release. It teased so much and disappointed me almost as much as it made me fall in love with it. A steampunk style gauntlet with a rope launcher, Victorian fight clubs, a hideout on a train that moves around the whole city, absolute destruction in the streets of London with horse and carriage chases, a sword cane, getting rid of the absolutely pointless online multiplayer. What is not to love about all of this? It'll never happen in a million years, but I'd like Syndicate to be remade one day. The gameplay and the glitches fixed and the choice of which twin you'd like to play as. To play Syndicate the way you wanted to play it rather than the way Ubisoft wanted you to. Until then, guess I'm just going to have to continue walking around the streets of 1968 London and beating blighters about the head with a sword cane. Thanks for watching. Which Assassin's Creed game do you think is under or overrated? Or which is your favourite assassin? Drop me a comment to discuss it. Or let me know what you thought of the video. If you've enjoyed what you've watched, I'd appreciate the like, and hopefully I'll be back soon with another video.